Okay, in this video we're going to start associating pins with users, but before we do that, we really need to save our work up until now because we did a lot in the last couple of videos. So git add period, git commit am, let's say created pin scaffold, edited pins views. Sound good? Good. Git push. Now let's push it up to Heroku. Git push Heroku master. And since we've created a database migration in the last video to handle all of our pin scaffolding, we'll need to run that rake db migrate command on Heroku like we did earlier for the devise users. And if we don't do that, of course, Heroku will throw up an error if we try and create a pin or something. Create a pin, view a pin, edit a pin, anything. Heroku will go, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So we need to rake the database, the Postgres database, sitting up on Heroku. So in just a second here, this should finish up, and we can run Heroku run rake db :migrate. Bang zoom, that should take off. You just never know with Heroku. Sometimes it goes instantly, sometimes it takes a little bit. Okay, so we're done there. And if we come back here, we can log in. I probably won't be able to log in. Yep, because this is the Heroku app and we haven't actually signed in on the Heroku app. I can do that real quickly. Okay, so list pins. There are no pins. But we can add one, and everything looks good. So let's get back to our development environment. This video is going to be a little bit tricky. We're going to start to get into some stuff now, and it's not going to be too bad, but it's going to be a lot. So try and bear with me here, and we'll try and get through this. But we're at the point now where we need to start associating our pins with our users, and only allowing our users to create, edit, etc., and destroy pins, right? So Rails handles associations pretty interesting, pretty easily. But we can kind of look Rails associations. Let's see here. Here we go. This is a good one. I like these Rails guides. You'll be looking up stuff from time to time in these, and they're pretty comprehensive. Here we go. So here are the types of associations in Rails. Some sirens going on in the background here in downtown Chicago this morning. Just pause for a minute while they do their thing. I tell you, we're at 20 floors up, but we still hear those sirens every day. So anyway, types of associations. Rails has several here, and if you kind of look through these, you'll see that they make sense. Something can belong to something else. Something can have one. It can have many. It can have many through, it can have one through, it can has and belongs to many. Now these are sort of more advanced ones. We probably won't have to deal with these until you're doing some more intricate sort of things. Basically we can deal with these here. And so let's think about this with our setup, right? So we have users, and those users, or I should say we have pins, and we want those pins to belong to certain users, right? And each user will have many pins. They could have one, they could have many, but primarily we want them to be able to have many pins. And we want those pins to belong to those users. So these are the associations we're going to be dealing with. And you can come down here and read about each one, see how to use them, and learn a little bit more about them if you really want to dive into it and learn this stuff. And if you're planning on being like a professional Rails developer, it's probably a good idea for you to read up on this stuff. Right now we're just going to kind of skim over it, and it's enough, I think, that you know this exists, and you can look it up if you need to in the future. So what are we going to do first? So let's go ahead and look at close some of these out here. Let's look at our database. And we have two migrations so far, the users from our devise thing, and then our pins that we created in the last video. And the pins basically just have this description on them so far. In the world of database pins, we're just accepting the description. And what we really need to do is add a username, or add a user to this sort of migration, this database. In fact, we can look at our current database schema right here, also under database. And if you look at it here, we have our pins, we have our users. Basically, the migrations create this schema file, but you can see at a glance what's going on in our database. So right now we've got our pins table, and it has a description. It also has that timestamp we've seen a couple of times that is nice to have. Then we have our users table, and it has email, password, and some other things that device creates. So like I said, we need to add users to our pins table, right? That way we can then associate those users with those pins. What we're going to do is create a user ID. That way we'll be able to associate the users with the user ID and the pins with the user ID. So we do that by putting in this. Let's go ahead and clear this screen here. This always makes me a little bit nervous because this is a very long command, and if you make any little mistakes here, it could really mess stuff up. So make sure you type this in exactly. You might want to just copy and paste. I'll put this on the website directly below this video, so you can just copy and paste this. But basically, it's the same sort of thing we've been looking at so far. Rails generate a migration. We're going to create a migration. Whenever we want to do something to the database, that's what we do. We create a migration. Later on, we will run the rake db migrate command both on our development environment as well as our Heroku production environment, like we've done before. So, but here's what we're doing. We're adding user ID to pins, right? And this is sort of the convention that's used. It's all strung together, and it doesn't seem that cool to me, but that's what they do. You just add underscore user ID underscore to underscore pins, and that's saying, just the way it sounds, add a user ID to pins. Now over here we define what user ID is. You know, in the last time we ran a migration, we created a description and it was a string. This time we're creating user ID and it's an integer, right? And this last little bit here, this is just database stuff. We're gonna make this an index, and that's just a database term you don't really need to know about. It's just a way to look up entries quicker, to index them quicker. So a lot of times you'll put an index on a user ID type of thing, but not all that important for you to know. Just go ahead and do it. So moment of truth, hit enter. Okay, so now we see our migrations. There's a third one that's been added. It's called add user, and it looks like this: add column, add index, Okay, so now we can run our rake db migrate to push this migration up into the database. Oops, I misspelled. It's one of those days, I tell you. Rake db migrate, not guy-grate. Just invented a new word. Okay, so let's take a look at our schema now. Now all of a sudden we have this user ID that has been added to our pins table, and that wasn't there before. We've also had this add an index of user ID. That wasn't there before either. Okay, so now the mechanism is in place, so to speak. Now we need to tie it all together and tell our system this belongs to that and this has many of that, right? So we do that in our model section, because this is database stuff we're working with, and the database is the models of the MVC architecture that we talked about back at the beginning of the course. And so you see we have these two RB files. These are basically database. These associate with the pin, associates with the pin database, or the pin table. Users obviously associates with the users table. So we're going to look at the pins, and there's nothing really in there right now. But we need to tell the system, tell whatever, that a pin belongs to a user. And you can see this right here. We just copied this right here, and we're telling it that a pin belongs to a user. So we can save that. Likewise, now, same section, click on the user RB, and we need to tell tell this guy that a user has many pins. And again, we're getting that from right here, has many, this types of associations. A user has many pins. So we go ahead and save that. So we're almost there. Now we need to look at our controller for our pins controller. And it's just right here, pins controller. And you see this before action up here at the top. We need to add a couple more lines here. So we're adding these two before actions, and we're saying before you allow anything else to happen, you need to authenticate the user for every page except for the index page and the show page. So you don't have to be logged in to view our index page. You don't have to be authenticated, right? And you don't have to be authenticated in order to show individual pins. That's fine. But for everything else, we need to authenticate you. And then this next line is you have to be the correct user, right? You have to, in order to edit a pin, update a pin, or destroy a pin. So if you haven't created that pin, if you're not the correct user that created that pin, we're not going to let you edit a pin or update it or destroy it. You can still see it, but you can't destroy it. You can't update it. You can't edit it. So let's save this and let's check this out. Let's see if we can see what we can do here. So here's our list of pins. You can see that we are not logged in. So let's look at the pin. Hey, we can see the pin. Let's try and edit the pin. Oh, you need to be signed in before continuing, and it makes you sign in. That's cool, right? So let's try and edit this pin from here. Oh, can't, need to sign in first. Well, let's try and destroy this pin. Oh, nope, got to sign in first. So just a few lines of code, just like that. And oh, can't even create a new pin now. Got to be signed in. So look, I mean, that was just like what, 4 lines of code, and we've locked down our entire app now. You got to be logged in. You got to be signed up and logged in order to edit things, destroy things, or add things. So I think that's pretty cool. So, you know, a lot of the stuff probably didn't make a whole lot of sense. You know, I kind of walked you through it a little bit. And that's okay. You'll pick this stuff up more as you go along. I just want to sort of show it to you, introduce you to some of these concepts, looking at the models, the pin RB. You don't really need to know in great detail what all this stuff means. You just need to know, you know, whenever you want to associate things, here's your options. This is where you do it. And as you build more apps, as you build more websites, and you get more involved in this stuff, you'll read up on it more when you need to do more advanced things, and it starts to make a lot more sense. The thing about Rails is there's just so much to learn at the beginning. It can become, you know, overwhelming. So I really don't want you to get tied up in understanding how all this stuff works and why. Just right now, just realize that it does, and this is it. And, you know, in a couple months, you'll have more experience, and you can learn more on your own, take other courses, and dive deeper into this stuff. But for now, we're rolling right along here. So let's log in real quick here. And one thing I would really want to point out, should have done this before. Okay, so we really should have deleted all of the old pins that we had created earlier, because we've got it set up now that all pins have to be associated with a user, right? Well, those early pins that we created, they weren't associated with any user, and so now all of a sudden, we're getting errors. So we should have deleted those before. Now I'm gonna have to think for a second how we can get rid of them. We can go into the Rails console and delete them individually. That's kind of a pain. Instead, let's see what we can do here. Let's go to our controllers and our pins, and well, let's see if we just delete these 2 lines. Maybe that. Okay. So let's go ahead and reload, destroy. Okay, now it's going to let us. And destroy. Okay, now let's re-add those lines. Save it. And now we can try. This is a new pin. Alright. So, edit. You know what? We need to edit our controller because we need to change all of these things. Actually, I tell you what, let's go ahead and edit our profile and cancel my account. Oh, first, let's see. Let's delete this pin. Alright. Let's take out this line, save, destroy. Alright. Add that line back in. Okay, so let's edit the profile. Let's cancel my account. Your account has been successfully canceled. Let's go ahead and join again. Alright, list pins, new pin, test, submit, edit. Moment of truth. No, we still cannot edit. Okay, there's nothing for it. We need to make some changes here. Basically, we need to tell our controller that our logged in user is the current user and only allow the current user to make changes and stuff. So how do we do that? So I'm going to go through here and clean this up a little bit. I don't need that. Don't need that. Do not need that. Now, create a new pin. Instead of pin at pin.new, we're going to set this to current user. And edit, we can leave alone. Create, I'm going to change this around a little bit. I'm going to go current users.pin.build. So it's similar to this here. Pin parameters, those are the parameters of your form that you fill out when you create a new pin. There's the notice that it'll flash up on the screen if we're successful. And then let's see, update, we'll also want to change that a little bit. Same sort of deal here. And pin destroy. Okay. Now, the reason why we've been getting an error is because we haven't defined what the correct user is. And so, it's pretty simple. So we've got define correct user at pin equals current user.pins.find by params ID. So it's saying find all the pins for the current user by ID. So if we save this, hopefully, let's see, are we logged in? We are logged in. Check out the pins. Show. Edit. Not authorized to edit this pin. Okay. Not authorized to edit this pin. Okay, let's try making a new pin. Test 4. Edit. Okay, so now we can edit the pin. Okay. And it shows up. We can destroy the pin. And can we destroy this pin? No. So we need to go back here and get rid of this line one more time. Destroy this sucker. Okay. Now paste that guy back in. Now we should be good to go. So like I said, this video is a little bit trickier. Lots of opportunity for things to go wrong. Ask questions below this video if you get stuck, and we will power through it with you. But right now, we're in pretty good shape. We've got the ability to log in, log out, edit our profile, add pins, associate those pins with each user, edit and destroy the pins based on the user. And in the next video, we can start working on adding images to each pin. So that's going to be really cool. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how simple it is to deal with images in Rails. So that'll be in the next video.